Welcome to the CFL Betting Blueprint. I'm Andrew McInnis. I have Bobby Dubeau with me, and we are here to break down week one of the CFL, our picks and predictions, thoughts on the opening numbers, thoughts on where we think some of the lines will go. And last week we gave you guys a future show, but we are more than happy to be here with a actual week one show where we're giving out picks on the games, and hopefully we can get you guys into the CFL with us. Bobby, look, futures are fun to talk about, but we're here in week one. It's a little bit more exciting.
For sure. And to be honest, I was a little disappointed when these lines first came out. But just a little bit of movement can change my mind on that. Could be on all four games by the time they kick off. So there's some important injury reports out of Saskatchewan and Toronto. Looking forward to discussing these games with you, as you and I are one of the few people who cover the CFL and cannot afford to be wrong when we say stuff. So looking forward to finally we're here in week one.
Absolutely. And of course, we're going to be on X, but we're also going to be on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So if you guys are watching right now on WagerTalk, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment below what you're betting this week, what your thoughts are. And I know the prop market is growing in CFL, so let us know if you're betting on any of that stuff as well. But before we dive into week one, there's definitely a reason why we wanted to do the show on Tuesday and get the lines early and stuff. So, Bobby, any quick tips you have? We didn't really have time last week to get into this segment, but just any tips that just come off the top of your head for people betting early season CFL?
I would just say don't overreact. I think that's not necessarily like an early season thing. That's just throughout the season. You always hear in the NFL, like week two is always the overreaction week where everybody gets burned trying to adjust to see what happened on the opening week. Teams, although they change a lot of players, the adjustments from year to year on these teams can't be that big. So yeah, I just wouldn't try and be a hero here. I wouldn't say anything ridiculous like the Elks are going to be good or anything like that. Every year it's the same old story with them. So I just wouldn't over adjust. And even when you see things happen week to week, again, like just look at it level headed. You eventually can figure out who these teams are and kind of work from there. The books don't seem to over adjust either. We don't really over adjust. So the people who put money on these things are the ones who are least likely to overreact.
Definitely. I agree. I mean, and 1 week to the next, I think that one thing that you're very good with, and I've learned from you, and I've tried to do a really good job of myself, is if you don't get the number that you like, stay away from the game, or even look for a live betting spot. Because, this is all about numbers with the CFL. One of the reasons I love the CFL so much is, I find that it's a soft market. I find that still to this day, we don't always see as many movements, but you're going to see a lot of change throughout the week and leading up to game day. And I actually remember 2 summers ago, there was a time where the sharp money was going, it was like the opposite. So the second thing I'm going to say is trust your instinct. If you feel like you've done some work, you feel like you've done some research and you're prepared to bet a certain team, don't be afraid or don't be like deteriorated because you see the line going the other way. Obviously, you always want to get the best of the number, but sometimes it could work out the other way. If you see money coming in, it could benefit you and you could get an even better number on the team you like. So trust yourself, don't overreact. And I think that reading quotes is important in handicapping with all sports, but especially in the CFL. I think reading quotes from some of these coaches can be very telling what type of game you're going to get, what type of, total over under you're going to get, how the team's feeling and where their mindset is. And again, it can help you with props as well. But that's it for me. I think it's 1 week to the next, and we'll see what happens and we'll see what our thoughts are for week one. But Bobby, what we're going to do.
Before we jump in on that, just to go back to what you said about a couple years ago, even last year, there were some big line movements, and my best assumption is Raz was giving away picks. So when you have people with that big of subscription, a lot of money moves the number quite a lot in the CFL. And long story short, they don't give out CFL picks anymore. They did not do too well. I know just a few people on X that were tracking for them. I think they were like on a 1-8 bender and eventually just gave up. So Yeah, I'm not too worried about line movement in the CFL. Like you said, just trust what you know. It is a beatable sport for sure.
As I fix my mic there. All right, let's get into week one. And I agree with you. There are some movements, but at the end of the day, you also got to figure out where that's coming from. Every week, we're going to just have a screenshot here. Sometimes we'll have some stories. We'll have some certain things, numbers, stats we're going to look at. But here's the picture. Here's the opening picture for week one. When I say opening picture, these are the numbers as of the time right before filming. Midday, we'll call it, on Tuesday afternoon. Bobby, I feel like there's just so many different quadrants of like the lines being dropped in the CFL. There's like the early openers. Sometimes we'll see even Monday. Then it kind of settles in Tuesday, Wednesday, and then maybe Thursday afternoon we start seeing some movement, of course, on that Thursday night, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever it may be. But that's why the Tuesday is kind of nice because, of course, there were some numbers available that were a tad different Monday, and then Tuesday settles in, and we don't really see much movement, in my opinion, until game day. So as of right now, Sask -3.5, -176 the money line, total 49.5. Obviously, the opening number was a bit different, but your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, first thing you got to address with the Riders here is that Drake was seen sporting a Saskatchewan Roughriders logo, diamond encrusted, I think like last week. And hey, I'm not sure if these O-line issues were happening before the photo, but first day of practice, they had another guy go down on their O-line. They're already moving guys around to compensate for the existing injuries, and now like these cluster injuries, they're getting the list of injured O linemen for the Riders is even longer. So you just have to be aware of that. Anything that Drake touches doesn't turn out to be. He's got the opposite of Midas's touch, right? So you've got that. You've also got this aspect here, which I've kind of just realized that is probably going to be an emotional roller coaster. This game here, you've got a coaching staff in Ottawa that's notorious for making horrible decisions. The last game they played, they made a ridiculous onside kick with a few seconds left in the half, spotted the Argos a few extra points that they didn't even really need. Nobody seemed to care, though. In Ottawa, they doubled down. They hired Rick Campbell, who was the coach of the Lions, and he is the probably the least likely person to talk Bob Dice out of negative EV field goals. Almost every field goal in the CFL is negative EV. So you've got two people that are going to agree on the bad decisions for Ottawa, and then you've got Corey Mace, who has proven that he doesn't get it yet. Last year after a game, he was questioned by a reporter, and after about 10 seconds, you realize that if that reporter was making the calls on the sidelines, the Riders would have won the game. So this is just a perfect storm of bad coaching decisions. You've got the three worst offenders in the league last season on the sidelines for this one game. So you kind of look at this game, handicap it. You just want to get out alive, and that's why I took the money line as soon as this came out. You were still able to get a fair amount down. Like, I don't give out. I know the big joke is giving out 3 a.m. plays at the South Point where you can get $50 down. You could get real money down here at 135. I figured this line should be closer to 3, maybe a little more where it is right now. I don't really like giving out money line picks to start the year. There's enough touts on X that have these great win-loss records until you realize that they're betting like -150 favorites all the time. But this game should have been the Riders laying a field goal at least. So money line should have been around 170, 180, which I think is where it's kind of settled right now. If it goes any further, I might kind of take the other side here, hope that both teams have fun. That happened 4 times last year where we were able to get on both sides of a game. Moneyline was the play on the Riders I gave out earlier this week. And that's just to avoid this kind of ridiculous 1-2 point wins. And like in the CFL, the most 3 common numbers that games finish on are 3, 7, and 1. So even with the juice at 135 at the time I gave it out, you got 10% of these games that are going to fall within 1 or 2 points. You kind of don't work around with that. So I don't really like where it is right now. If anything, I might take it if the line goes any further for the Redblacks. But glad I was able to get something down when this first came out and take the mispriced line on the money line with the Riders.
It's so funny in the CFL. Like every sports better wants to do this, right? But in the CFL, whether it's like two different bets pre-flop or it's jumping in during the game and finding yourself a middle, it's a sport that you certainly can do that, and it's the best feeling in the world. One thing I'll say about the CFL, as far as the in-game stuff for middling, compared to NFL, for a lot of you guys out there that watch NFL or college football, even with the fact that it's just three downs and with the way the clock works just a little bit different, you can get the ball back really fast. So like you'll see a game that was lined at like 6.5, and in the first quarter or second quarter, it could be like 14.5, Bobby. And you might have the favorite going in, and then you get the dog at that 14.5, and you're just like you're hoping that the game is anything but a disaster. And if it is, you're cashing two wagers. So you could very well imagine you get like a 4.5 plus, and then you've got both tickets. I mean, that would be, you're just hoping for a field goal game, and you're sitting back having a cold one, just hoping that you see a good Thursday night opening game. You know, it seems to me that based on an opening number, I was a bit confused, but just based on like popular CFL content creators or podcasters or bettors, there doesn't seem to be a person out there that doesn't like the Redblacks this year. The Redblacks seem to be a popular team as far as like they're going to turn it around. I saw a few great cup picks floating around out there, and I was like, it's like you said at the start of the show, right? A lot of the times, unfortunately, it's a 9-team league. There are some shockers. Like we've seen a lot of outright upsets in the Grey Cup the past few years, but it doesn't mean some of these teams are going to go out in there and shock us from like bottom in a division or second last in a division and then go to the Grey Cup. So one thing I found, though, going through this Ottawa team, which is kind of interesting, last year they had a 7-1-1 home record. Yes, that's 7-1-1. And I do remember the game that was a tie because I had the money line for the other team and I got the push on that game. 7-1-1 home record. So despite it not being much travel right now, it's week one. There was something about it where the Redblacks were playing better football at home. One thing about Saskatchewan, they dealt with a lot of injuries last year, and a lot of it was their offensive line, certain situations there. But one thing that I've noticed when doing my work this past offseason on the Riders, there's a lot of continuity. There's a lot of the same guys. They got a lot of the same great players defensively. They've got the same stud running back. AJ Ouellette seems to be in the best shape of his life. Trevor Harris has always been a favorite quarterback of mine. I trust him late in games. I think he's a great system quarterback, but he can also make a big play if you need him to. But it seems to me like they made the right changes in the offseason. They shored up their offensive line a little bit. They got some pass rushers as well. They're going to cause a little more havoc. And that was one thing with the Redblacks. Drew Brown did have a good year. I can't lie. Like, numbers wise, he had a pretty good year for the Redblacks, but he also was scrambling a lot. And he kind of had some of those Dak Prescott stats too late in games when they were down, especially on the road, where he was throwing the ball in the fourth quarter the whole time. They weren't running, and they were forced to throw. One thing about Saskatchewan last year, they were the number one team as far as rushing yards allowed per game. So if they can shut down Ottawa's run, force them into throwing, and then I think it's going to be really hard once it becomes predictable, they're throwing all the time, then I think it's going to be really hard for Ottawa's O-line to protect Brown. So based on this move right now, I'll tell you, I could particularly be on a first half play for Saskatchewan, inking that I think that there is a home field advantage for them at home. They do have a lot of veterans. And like I said, I look for a lot of the same players to be on a roster the next year, especially early in seasons. Everyone's excited about some new shiny weapons they got over there in Ottawa. Sometimes that stuff takes time. So maybe I'll be looking at a first half play, and I won't talk anybody off even using Saskatchewan as a parlay piece. They can't get your money line at minus 135 anymore. I know we're not going to encourage too many parlays all the time, but guess what? I've got a really good record in the CFL or when I combo CFL money lines with other sports. So I think Saskatchewan wins. We'll see what ends up happening to this number. But as of right now, I'm leaning towards taking the first half in this one. When it comes to Saskatchewan, like, do you think they're going to be And it, like last year, they were kind of like a 20 to 20 yard type of team. Like they played a lot of back and forth games. I know you aren't a totals guy, but like how many touches do you see from Olette? Because I feel like as good as Trevor Harris is, they're going to probably run this guy into the ground. Like he looks like he's in great shape. Like I feel like possession is going to be a big thing in this game. We were talking with fellow CFL better Ian Cameron about how like in years past the league has started with unders, and then last year I think we saw 3-1 first week to the over. But it actually wouldn't shock me as much as I love to make fun of the defense of the Redblacks. It wouldn't shock me actually to see an under in this game.
Yeah, like I mentioned, you got three of the worst decision makers in the league on the sidelines. That means every chance they're going to have at a field goal, they're going to take.
Right.
The problem with that is you're giving the ball at the 30-yard line to the other team. But yeah, I would lean under. You want these long drawn out drives that end up in stupid field goals and take time off the clock, right? So I think you have a good recipe for that here. Yeah, I remember at least the last few years, the first few weeks of the season have been like these totals would open up 48-49 and they'd all be shooting under. So now is probably the time to take advantage of it, but that's your wheelhouse for sure, not mine.
We'll see what ends up happening with these teams. But I think that, like you said, both these coaches are going to be fine sending out the field goal unit any chance they possibly can get. All right, Argos at Alouettes. Obviously, a storyline here with this one. Your thoughts here on the number 4.5? How much do you care about the storyline, the revenge factor here? Obviously, it was a crazy game the last time these two teams met each other. Total being at 47.5. It's been kind of the Chad Kelly watch, figuring out when he's going to be healthy. Once again, are we going to have to deal with backups multiple for the Argos? I'm not really sure, but both these teams, a ton of talent coming into this year.
Yeah, like I don't even know if there is a revenge aspect here, just because you had Chad Kelly in the last matchup. You had an injured Cody Fajardo in the last matchup. Doesn't look like either one of them. One for sure won't be there. It doesn't look like Chad Kelly is going to be starting this game either. It's kind of weird. Everybody freaking out when the Alouettes released Fletcher early on in the week. Some people had him to be like an MOP candidate. You can bet him. You can bet a bunch of other people. You couldn't bet Cody Fajardo, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But as soon as Montreal released their starting running back, Toronto released basically two starting running backs in Kevin Brown and Kadeem Carey. So like you have to adjust for that, I guess, until the unproven guys show otherwise. But like I wouldn't say this is like the NFL where you're going to get, I don't even know if you adjust for a full point for that. Like running backs in the CFL, they're serve a purpose, but I don't think they're that important to the line as they would be in the NFL, unless you got a team like here we go again, like Ottawa, who started a wide receiver at running back for like the second half of the season after they cut the best running back in the league off their team. So
Yeah.
I think Montreal has a little bit more to worry about because it looks like they're going to be starting Sean Thomas Erlington, which I wouldn't say has a very high ceiling. We kind of know what he is, but I'm more concerned about the Argos practice report, which is going to be the key during this week. And the problem with that is most times you don't know if Argos practice actually happened or not because nobody goes to it. But looks like Matthew Shinetti was there reporting to see who's starting, who's taking reps. But if we get to Friday where you've got an Argos D that's been kind of picked apart in the offseason free agency, Wynton McManus looks like he's taking first team reps, but he's the key to that defense. He's the leader on the defensive side of the ball. And then you've got like Nick Arbuckle at quarterback. You have to kind of be concerned about the Argos in this game. And like nobody believed in Nick Arbuckle more than me last November. But I wouldn't be as confident with him this week. It's definitely a different Argos team, still a good Argos team, but different from what it was going into the Grey Cup last year. I'd be more concerned about that than what other people seem to be fixated on, which is Davis Alexander's preseason, his first half in a preseason game. I'm going to lean on the 5-0 record he had last year in real games in the CFL. So if this line goes any more and the injury report doesn't turn out great for the Argos, I think I could end up being on the Alouettes here. But right now, I don't really want to go near this line at this, 4.5, 5 points right now. We'll see where it gets to by game time, and maybe there's some value on the Alouettes.
Yeah, I think for me, like just looking at this game, I'm not really too concerned about a revenge aspect or anything like that as well. But I will say, like, I always talk about looking for unders and dogs. It's one of those things like early on in a season. I was listening to a UFC podcast the other day. They were talking about how like the public in UFC loves betting on unders and underdogs. The public in football betting loves betting favorites and overs, of course. So, if you want to be a contrarian to start any season off, you kind of want to look towards unders and dogs in the Canadian Football League. But looking at this here, I'm confident in Montreal. Talk about health. Like at this team is healthy. They've got their weapons back. They still have a good defensive side of the ball. They lost a couple guys in the offseason, but their pass rush is extremely dangerous. I think they're going to cause a lot of problems. Last year, Bobby, was during the end of the season, they were good for like 2 or 3 turnovers a game, it felt like. Whether it was interceptions, whether it was just creating fumbles, strip sacks, whatever it might have been, this team was dangerous. There's going to be no more annoying horn sounds for them at home. Most people excited about that. I thought it was kind of unique to them, in my opinion. I might be the only person that will miss hearing that noise on my TV. But yeah, and then the Davis Alexander thing. I mean, I gave him out on the show for the Futures show as most outstanding player. So yeah, I believe in the guy. I wouldn't be giving out if I didn't believe in the guy. What I'm going to say, though, is that this is actually a game here where I like the over 47.5. I think both teams are capable of points. I think both teams have receivers. Both teams have weapons. And to the point that you mentioned about the running back situation, both teams have guys that are still trying out almost, it feels like. Like they're going to be trying to prove who they are and what their role and value is to the certain team. And so I think that with Montreal being healthy, with Montreal being extremely motivated, with a new quarterback at the helm, and we've also seen the coaching staff for Montreal talk about how they want to continue to look downfield. They want to be aggressive. Like when CFL coaches use the word aggressive, that's just like that's like me saying, okay, you're telling me to bet the over, right? Like you're saying the word aggressive, that means the over. So I think over 47.5 is a pretty good bet for this one. I like it. I think it's a good possible angle here with some motivating teams. And despite a lot of continuity on these two rosters as well, there's still a handful of guys that are vying for spots. And the funny thing is, I want your thoughts on this. I know you're not really a totals guy, but one thing I've noticed in the CFL compared to the NFL, and well, at least with this Montreal Alouettes team, turnovers lead to points. Like sometimes turnovers don't lead to points. They can actually take away points. I noticed that a lot of times turnovers lead to like pick sixes. It's not like a lot of times in the CFL, you get an interception and then you go down. Like when most of the time when guys get picks, they're going for like 40 yards after because the field's bigger, right? You get a pick, you're gone for a while. So both teams, I think they have defenses that can make plays. We could turn it into offense. I like over 47.5. I think I don't see Davis Alexander being shy. And I think whoever the quarterback is for Toronto, which we already know who it's going to be, but I don't think they're going to be shy either, and I think that we're going to see both teams be aggressive. So do you think with a Montreal team that I'm talking about gets all these turnovers, do you think they could turn turnovers into points like they have in the past?
Yeah, I think that was basically how they won most of their games last year. Like Cody Fajardo was the MOP leading candidate before he got injured. It wasn't really because of how he played. It's because he was the quarterback of the best team in the league. Everybody else was injured. So, like if Nick Arbuckle's behind center, like, hey, I'm not going to say he's not going to throw an interception. If you can find any of those props pregame, I would definitely take the over a half interception for him. But yeah, turnovers lead into points. Look at the Grey Cup. There was one pick six. I think there could have been one more with McInnis near the end of the game. Pick sixes are pretty common in the CFL just because, like you said, it's a wide field, lots of room to run. So like that could lead to the over. I would just assume that the fact that these coaches kind of for the most part, seem to know what they're doing, especially Ryan Dinwiddie in Toronto. You're not going to see any stupid bonehead decisions in the red zone. They're going to go for it. They're not going to take these little field goals and cost themselves field position. So, yeah, I would think that you need some coaches with making the proper decisions for these games to go over. So, these would be the two I would say most likely to do it in the league.
From like a fantasy perspective, I'll just add that Montreal out of these two teams was the better team as far as passing yards allowed per game. Toronto was the better team as far as rushing yards allowed per game. So, shockingly enough, looking at Montreal last year, they were the third worst team in rushing yards allowed per game at 116, Toronto being at 85. So, different ways for these two teams to beat each other. It's quite the opposite. One team can beat the other team through the air, one team with the ground game. So, we'll see what happens. Lean for me with the over 47.5. Haven't made up my mind if I'll be on a side in this one quite yet. All right. Looking at the next one here, guys. And before we get into the next one again, do us a favor, hit the like button on the video, share if you're watching on X, subscribe to the WagerTalk YouTube channel, follow Bobby on X at Mr. Surrey Jack, myself, McInnis Picks, all of my best bets available at wt.buzz/AM. And Hamilton heading to Calgary for their first game here in week one. Nice to see a pick'em game here in week one. I know there's been years past where we've had some big point spreads here. Look, I'll start with this one. This 52.5, evidently the highest total on the board. It's like, hey, look, let's roll the ball out. Let's play first to 30 wins this game here, and let's see what we can do, because that's what it seems like with both these offenses. And, when I look at Hamilton, people have been talking about, the shiny weapons, the new guys that they're dealing with. And that's going to be the big question is, how quickly can they gel? What can these guys get some chemistry immediately? When it comes down to it, though, they're talking about really being aggressive every single drive. I think that one thing with Hamilton is that they've got to be a little more patient. I mean, when you go out and pick up some big guys, when you pick up a guy like Lawler, when you've got White, who's unbelievable, Bridges as well, this to me is a team that's going to make you pay. If Bo Levi can stay healthy and they can even just respectfully protect him, like even just keep it respectful in the offensive line, I think it's going to be really good for them. They did add a few pieces in the defensively. This Calgary team, what was it, 5 wins for them last year, Bobby? And it's not going to get much better, in my opinion. We talked about the 6.5 is the number. Under is plus 115 for the win total. Calgary, to me, look, Jake Mayer's out of town. They bring in a guy that you watched a ton last year as the season ticket holder for BC with big play VA. But I'm not so sure, Patrick Mahomes could save this Calgary Stampeders team this year. Maybe he could, but maybe a third stringer in the NFL wouldn't be able to. I think Hamilton's the better team here in this one. This, to me, will be a first half play. Could get to the full game as well here. Maybe a team total. I'm leaning towards the Hamilton side. I think that we're going to see VA running for his life, and I think that this is one of those games where I don't think Hamilton's defense will hurt them. There's going to be games where their defense can really hurt them, where they're going to lose games because they pulled the Cincinnati Bengals where they scored 30 and gave up 36. I just don't think this is one of them. Your thoughts?
Okay, well, let's address 3 things you just said there. Tim White, for sure, there's going to be times in the game where you're going to say unbelievable. I don't know whether it's going to be good or bad, but the last season and even in preseason, open touchdowns going right through his hands, bouncing right off his hands. So yes, Tim White is unbelievable. At least they have Kenny Lawler now, who can secure a few more catches for sure. Second, big play VA is at least for the last couple of years, he's turned into smart play VA. So I'm definitely a little more hopeful with him. He's really come out as a great quarterback in this league. And if you want your third stringer NFL quarterback, they have it. They got PJ Walker as the backup quarterback in Calgary. So like this line at pick, like it just speaks to the parity in the league. Like we talked about it last week. Like these Stamps Everybody says they're the worst team in the league. Maybe they are, but they're a long shot with a shot. The spread from top to bottom in the league is as tight as I can remember it. And their biggest problem last year was losing close games. How'd they lose those close games? They had boneheaded decisions by the quarterback. They also weren't close in games because they had boneheaded decisions by the head coach, who basically forfeited a couple, even when they were still in the hunt for a playoff spot. So the good news on that end is it's too early in the season for Dave Dickinson to forfeit games, and they actually just released the quarterback at Logan Bonner. Is it Logan Bonner, or is he a
He's
UFC
your guy.
fighter?
He was your guy.
Anyway, he's out of the league, and so that risk is eliminated. Dave Dickinson cannot forfeit games this early in the year. He doesn't have the quarterback to forfeit with. So you've got VA in there, a smart play VA, top 3 quarterback in the league. He's replacing Jake Mayer, who is borderline top 10. So this isn't really a bet against Hamilton. I think we kind of know what Hamilton is. Their defense has to be better than it was last year. But I'm taking the other side. I just don't think Calgary's as bad as everybody thinks. So if Calgary's going to get over that win total of 6.5, which is pretty small, this is an important game for them, and I think they can get off at least pick up a few wins to start the season before maybe the wheels fall off. But for now, I like Calgary in this spot, and what did I give out last night? I took the 1.5. So there is a chance for a middle here.
Yeah.
We can both win if the game falls in 1, which is about 5% of the games in the CFL. It's a much more common number, like I said, than you'd think compared to the NFL, which is more rigid in their score differential.
I wouldn't mind seeing a really funky scoreline in this game. It wouldn't bother me a little bit here. I obviously want to be right, but there's going to be times where this is going to happen. We're going to be able to get a middle, or we're going to be able to somehow both be right in the game where we're on different sides. The last time these teams met, 62 points. I'm not a huge historical guy. We don't go back to 2005 with our numbers, but it is kind of nice sometimes to look at the last time these teams met, or whether it's a revenge spot within the same team. Also, one thing for me, I want to make clear, I'm not jumping on the Ticats wagon either. I'm not, you said you're not jumping on Calgary. I'm not putting on the fan hat. I'm not wearing a Ticats jersey. It's just this week I am. So you might not find me over the next few weeks as a Hamilton Ticats guy. But when I hear that Dave Dickinson saying there might be 12 new players playing defense this year on the team, I just hope that they get cooked. I mean, if Hamilton scores 30 points, Bobby, and they somehow don't win the game for me, I deserve to lose. Like, I deserve, if they put up like 27 plus points and they don't win the game, then shame on me. There's going to be a point in the game, I think you and I are going to be messaging each other saying, why the hell did we both not just shake hands and take the over here? Because there's going to be a lot of points, I think, for both teams. It would be shocking. I would be outright shocked to see a low-scoring game here in any way, and that's the reason why it's the highest scoring or highest total on the board with 49.5, 47.5, 52.5, and 48.5 in the game. We'll get to in just 1 second. I just wanted to mention, won't take too much time with it, Bobby, but just got a promo code kind of applicable to our show here. A Blueprint 25. This is only applicable here, guys, for this show. I'm not going to be able to mention this on social media, on X, Instagram, TikTok, wherever. You guys can use the promo code Blueprint 25. Take 25% off any package at wt.buzz/am. Working with Bobby, I feel like I'm getting smarter with betting the CFL. I've been betting it for years, had a lot of success, and especially with these best bets, had a lot of success over the years, and also 67% long-term on 5% plays. Haven't released a 5% play for week 1, but I did cash one in the preseason. We earned 9 units. I know we're betting on a 1 to 5 unit scale, but we hit on Winnipeg and we hit on the Edmonton Elks. And I don't know how long it's going to be before I'm betting on the Elks again. So hope you guys enjoyed that winner. And again, code Blueprint25, 25% off any package at wt.buzz/am. And I know, Bobby, you'd agree with me. I know you're posting all your picks on Twitter, and it's the same thing for me, whether it's free picks or people paying for my picks. you got to subscribe because you got to get the best number. Like, I'm going to be posting daily packages for people to buy for game days, but you know how it is. Like, I'm going to post parameters. That's the rule at WagerTalk, right? But it people don't understand. It hurts me, but it also hurts you guys if I have to take down these packages. Like, if a line is +3.5 and all of a sudden it gets down to +1.5, I have to take down that package. And if you don't subscribe to my all access, then you're not going to get the best number. And a lot of people that buy my individual daily CFL picks, they're constantly getting the worst number, Bobby. So, like, if I was you guys and you want Bobby's picks as well, I would press the bell button right next to his Twitter account. Get alerted whenever he tweets. You know, he's not a high volume Twitter guy. He makes some funny tweets, but that way you guys can know when we get the best ones, because CFL is a sport that I feel like I always get good numbers in. But if you want to join me, Blueprint 25, it could be a 7-day, 30-day, 90-day pass, full summer, whatever it is. Take 25% off any of my packages. All right, enough of that here. Let's get to the game we all want to talk about, the Edmonton Elks and BC Lions. I'm going to start with this, Bobby. The number we have here is 5.5. I said at the start of the year, some shows that I did and some videos I did at WagerTalk, that I thought the Elks were going to be a team that we were going to be able to make money on betting this year. This is more of a respectful number to them than I thought we were going to get, honestly. I was hoping to be on them, but not at 5.5. I can't do it.
Yeah, this was kind of my concern too, but for the opposite reason. I think I did not want to be on the Elks at all this season. The media can hype up a team and be wrong with no consequences. So, like you heard in 2023, the team was the Elks. 2024, the team the media was hyping was the Elks. And 2025, it's the year of the Elks. Finally going to make that playoff. Did they make the playoffs not last year? I don't think so.
No.
No, of course they didn't. They were terrible. So there's that going on, but like unfortunately, like when you're trying to take advantage of that, the people that can't afford to be wrong don't think the Elks are very good, and that includes the books. So we saw this the other way last year with Winnipeg. Everybody was saying the dynasty's over, the run is over, what Collaros is toast. And we were able to kind of get a little bit of value just sticking to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the second half of the season. The books didn't really give up much resistance, though, either. They kind of held the line with us. So I was concerned that there would be enough hype, but usually the hype doesn't really translate into the line. So this line, I was concerned at the start because it opened 5.5, I think. It was going 6.5. And I was kind of preparing my spiel to come up with something to back up the Elks, and maybe you can go with like their D lines improved. The BC Lions had issues with their O line last year, and I'm not sure they've been resolved in time for the start of this season. But hey, I'm not on anything right now. I hope I'm not on the Elks. I'm glad there was resistance when this number went to 6.5. But if this line goes higher, if it gets to 7, I'm worried about walking into Circa on Saturday, looking Jeffrey Benson in the eye and saying, "I'll take the Elks, please." That would be an all-time low for me in Vegas for sure. So I'm staying off it. But yeah, if this line gets big, it sounds like you'll be on it too, especially if it gets to a touchdown. It's just too many points, I think, to give in this league. There's still concerns for the Lions. They're not as strong as some other teams in the West. So, yeah, that's definitely a concern for me. And I will mention this, looking ahead to next week, the Bombers will be playing. They'll be without Zach Collaros. And just looking at what I've got, it's looking like I'm going to be back in Chris Streveler and a washed-up Winnipeg Blue Bombers team against the Lions. So, I've got enough to worry about coming in week 2. I don't want to be worried about having to put some money down on the Edmonton Elks, the team that I've been basically trashing for the last 3 years, and I'm basically hedging against them with my Trey Ford under as well.
Well, first of all, I hope you have a great time in Vegas. I hope you don't have to bet on the Elks, but that would be hilarious to see you, whether you're at Stadium Swim or whether you're at Circa. sitting there in a nice comfy chair and and betting. Somebody walks up to you like, "Hey, who are you on?" Like, oh yeah, it's that Elks team there, Edmonton, the team that's been in near last place every year. That's the team that you're on. But that's the thing. Who knows where the number will move? I will say this is that I mentioned earlier on in the show, the first game, Saskatchewan, the number moved 2.5, 3.5. If it keeps moving, I might use it as a parlay leg, whether it's with a UFC fighter that this weekend, whether it's with some MLB play, or hell, maybe it will be with the Lions. I don't think Nate Rourke and the Lions are going to lose. I wouldn't mind putting the Riders and Lions together in a two-teamer that's going to pay you around plus 125. Like I said, I have a lot of success in the past with CFL two-teamers. I know some people might not say that's the best way to go about things, but for me, what I've been doing this past, year, 365 days with my betting has been controlling the bankroll and limiting my risk. So if I don't want to bet one of these spreads and I want to tie these two teams together, that price is still plus 125. I understand I need two outcomes to go my way, but team totals, anybody that follows me, team totals have been a big thing for me. My winning percentage went down this year in the NHL, but I had one of my best years I've had in a couple years because my average price was minus 105 to plus 110, and you're getting the best number possible. So I wouldn't talk anybody out of throwing the Lions in there. But this is another game. I'm not going to talk anybody out of the over here. Look, I'm not going to talk anybody with Curly Gittens Jr. On the Edmonton side with some fancy weapons they have there, with some flashes we're going to see from Bobby's favorite quarterback there on the Edmonton side. I think there's some capabilities from this team. We saw it in the preseason even. And honestly, no other team needed a preseason victory in walk-off fashion than the Edmonton Elks, because the commentators were talking about it, and I agree with them on this, that sometimes you can get momentum and you can get enthusiasm out of those wins. But Nate Rourke came over to BC last year, like midway through the season, didn't look that crisp. He dealt with injury stuff as well. He looked good in the preseason. I think they've got so many weapons over there in BC, and both on the ground and through the air, honestly. But also with Buck Pierce being finally not a coordinator and being a head coach, this guy is a maniac when it comes to going deep. This guy is allergic to 5 and 10-yard passes. Whenever I would bet on Winnipeg, I would get mad, Bobby, because I was like, guys, it's like 2nd and 3. Just run the ball a couple yards. And he was just like, he'd run up, call a play for a 30-yard catch. But I think it's going to really work well with this BC Lions team. Give me the over here. Let's watch the Elks lose in really disappointing fourth quarter collapse fashion, but both teams go out there, have some fun, score some points, and the last game on the card, hopefully for us, will go over the total. So over 48.5 for me. This year I will be releasing team totals. The more betting gets available across DraftKings, FanDuel, other sports books, you guys should be able to get down on some of these bets that I'm getting down on, and we'll try and make some money. Prop betting with Prize Picks, with Underdog, with DraftKings, with FanDuel, with Pinnacle, with some of these places, you can bet props now. Last year was mostly a content thing for me. If I see something widely available, I will be releasing it as well. But give me the over here. Bobby, I look forward to watching how this line moves in particular. The minus 115 obviously is on the side of the Lions. I don't think this is going to stay. It's only going one way, as you said to me earlier in the week. We'll see what happens. Any closing thoughts for you before we wrap this up?
Well, I'll mention I was watching that Elks preseason game with you, just like everybody else in the world was. I couldn't tell you the name of the quarterback who engineered that game-winning drive, but if he's in the game, I'd be pretty worried if you're on the side of the Elks. So, hey, it was a good drive. Maybe he's got some potential in the league, but you don't want to see him again, especially if you're going to be back in Edmonton this season. Especially when that means they've gone through the best backup in the league with Cody Fajardo too. So, we've taken Taylor Cornelius at plus 14, Trey Ford at 7 points. Maybe it's not as bad as it could have been, or it has been for the Elks.
It could be a lot worse. All right, guys. Last thing I'm going to say, and I think Bobby would agree with me on this statement. Take a screenshot of what you're seeing here on the screen right now. Not us, not our faces, but these odds. And then try and compare them to what you see on game day. This is something that I do. If you don't use an odds screen, you can use Odds Logic. You can use the WagerTalk free odds page. But I think it's important for you guys to know what the odds were on Monday, what they were on Tuesday, and then what they are on the day that you are betting on the game. A lot of times I like doing it. I look at the openers, but Bobby, I do it every week. I take a screenshot the first time I see openers, and I kind of look back at it as the week moves on. So, guys, longer show than planned, but a lot of fun here breaking down these games. Wishing Bobby a really fun trip to Vegas. Hopefully, he can cash some tickets. Hopefully, he doesn't have to bet on the Elks if that number doesn't move. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, and we'll see you guys next time right here on the CFL Betting Blueprint.